Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our Snow Device Manager webinar. So today we will be joined by Dan Cranebrink from Byte Software Services and Alan Giles from Snow Software. So I'm now going to hand over to Dan, who's just going to talk a little bit about Bytes and Snow.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Sarah. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking the time out to join us on today's webinar. It falls to me just to really intro the session, really, and I'd like to start off really just by talking about this partnership between Bytes and Snow. We've been working together in particularly the software asset management space and asset management space in general since 2007. We've formed a really close relationship, which, as many of you know, looking at sort of the attendee list, it underpins our asset management service to customers, where in effect many customers are outsourcing the software asset management function to Bytes. So I think it goes without saying that Bytes and Snow know each other very well, and hence why we invite them on these webinars. So, brilliant, thanks so much. So just really to put it into some context, I think this is really how Bytes see the SAM marketplace today. And I think traditionally, if we go back 5 or 6 years, we were predominantly talking around what I would classify as the monitoring and optimization space. So this is your traditional SAM, where customers are looking at software inventory on their desktops, possibly their servers, and really monitoring how users are interacting with that software. And they're perhaps checking usage and managing software compliance. They're perhaps looking to reharvest software and manage their contracts in that regard. The world's really changed, I think, and now customers are really looking to incorporate that monitoring and optimization, that traditional SAM piece, in with what I would classify as demand management. So that's how a user's requesting software. So talking about self-service portals, and how can they link that together with their procurement function. And then it's moved on further to say, well, actually then, how are customers provisioning that software to end users? And once again, today the world's much more complex than it used to be. Rather than just delivering software by something like System Center, Altiris, whatever we're talking about, it's now about provisioning user licenses, maybe it's something like Office 365, provisioning software in the cloud as a service, whether it's in Azure, Amazon Web Services, and perhaps how customers then provisioning software out on mobile devices as well. And I think that new world is something, and that's how we're building our proposition, and that new world is also reflected in Snow's proposition, as we've seen with acquisitions and technology enhancements over the last year or two. And as such, and with some of these new acquisitions and technology enhancements that Snow are bringing, Bytes are running these focus sessions. So today we've invited Snow along to talk about the mobile device management piece, or Snow, the Snow solution in that space. And so at this point, I'm going to hand over to Snow and ask them just to talk about that part of their solution. If you have any questions at the end about how that actually links into our managed services or SAM offering, please let me know.
Thanks very much for that, Dan. Welcome everybody, and thank you for giving your time this morning for us to be able to talk to you about Snow Device Manager. I'll start off, my name is Alan Giles, and I run the Mobility Business Unit within Snow here in the UK. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is a bit of an introduction to Snow, because I'm sure there are people on the session that are not existing customers, and then talk a little bit about what is enterprise mobility management, and then get a bit more specific about how Snow Device Manager actually addresses mobility needs in the market. And then I'll share with you a couple of case studies we've got from existing customers, and then the coup de grace will be a demo of Snow Device Manager, both from an administrative function but also from a self-service portal point of view. So a little bit about Snow. We are a global company. We have we're approaching 400 employees around the world, heavily weighted towards development and services. We have over 10 million devices covered today, and that's across more than 5,000 customers. And one thing we're very proud of is 95% of our customers renew with us every year. This is the overall offering from Snow. The software asset management platform continues to grow into different areas so that we can actually take care of your software asset management needs from desktop to data center. And recent enhancement to the product suite is on the bottom left you'll see Snow Device Manager. This is an enterprise mobility management product, and it's what really enables us to be the first vendor to be able to bring to the market mobile SAM. That is bringing all your visibility of the hardware and the software and application assets that are on your mobile devices, whether they be phones or tablets, all within one window, which is Snow License Manager. We have another session on that, so we'll talk about that in more depth on that session. Today I really want to concentrate on Snow Device Manager, which is the EMM platform. So I mentioned it's an enterprise mobility management solution that handles the full life cycle of tablets and phones, known as Snow Device Manager. So it's worth clarifying exactly what an enterprise mobility management suite is, and Gartner quite helpfully define what is an EMM solution when they produce their Magic Quadrant, the last one of which was last May. And they define 4 core technologies that make up an EMM solution, and that is, as you can see on the slide, mobile device management, mobile application management, mobile content management, and mobile identity. Now, I just want to stress before we go any further, Snow Device Manager has all of these capabilities, and the one that really enables us to give real value to our core SAM customers is the application management piece, the ability to get inventory data out of your mobile device fleet back into Snow License Manager gives you that mobile SAM capability. But I can talk a bit more about that once we get there. So if we talk about device management, what does Snow Device Manager actually offer? In the world of mobile device management, which has evolved quite steadily over the last few years, most of the vendors will show you the same things on this slide, because all of the MDM vendors have the same tools to play with that are provided to us by Apple, by Google, by Microsoft, etc. So if you do have a mobile device management solution in place, you'll probably recognize most of the things on the slide. Some areas that are really key to note, the ability to give clear visibility of usage and ownership of the device, being able to see which device is tied to which person, who's using it, what they're doing with the device, where they are, should you be wanting to look at that, that's also useful. We give the self-service capability, pushing the responsibility for enrollment and upkeep of a mobile device into the hands of the end user. Now, this isn't a prerequisite, it's something that you can enable on a case-by-case basis, but what we find from our customer base the burden of enrolling and deployment of devices, because we've made it very intuitive and we've made it a really seamless experience for end users of all technical abilities to be able to bring their own devices, whether they be corporately owned or personally owned, into the world of device management. And that's a key area that I will spend some time on later during the demo. You get an inventory of all the device attributes, you get policy management, you get location information, you obviously get remote lock and wipe, that's the very basic thing with device management. But one thing that we're very keen to stress is we're fully integrated with the Apple Device Enrollment Program, and I have a slide on that later, so I'll elaborate when we get there. On the application management side, this is where you see EMM vendors start to differentiate. Some are better than others, some offer different things. And the things that we offer, we manage applications and help you provision devices in line with your corporate policies. We offer something called a managed application capability. There's a lot of talk in the EMM market about containerization, which is kind of an old-fashioned approach to securing and isolating corporate data on mobile devices. We take a slightly different view on it, in that we enable you to push out to devices managed applications, creating, if you will, mini containers, giving you corporate data isolation with around any data that resides within those apps. And it enables you to revoke the app, it enables you to track usage, it enables you to get the real asset tracking and asset management of the application around licensing and compliance, etc. But I'll show you exactly what that looks like when we get to the administration demo. We enable you to deploy applications with bootstrapped user configuration settings. That's because we link into Active Directory. So just because you have some apps in your corporate app store doesn't mean that everybody has to have it. You can choose on a user by user base or a group base which apps should be on which device at which time and who should be able to use them. pay-as-you-go, the ability to remove and revoke unused apps is very important when you're talking about application licensing and indirect usage and compliance from the asset management world. The ability from your device management, your EMM platform, to be able to remove apps from those people that are not using it and reassign the licenses is very attractive because it can save you money. Tied to the managed application capability, we have a per app VPN capability as well. So if you have a particular app that you've developed within your organization that you want all of your users to have on their devices, you may want to force how they use it, and that the data tunnel that data flows over actually goes within your firewall, goes directly to your firewall rather than using the public internet. And we support that through our managed app capability. Much like with device management, where we're fully integrated with DEP, with our application management, we're fully integrated with the Apple Volume Purchase Program. It's also true that we're integrated with Google Play and also with Microsoft Store, but particularly in the Microsoft area, it's not quite as developed as Apple and Google's offerings, but we support all of them. Content management is an interesting piece. There's another area of differentiation when you look at different vendors. They all take a slightly different approach to it. We give you the ability to access content from any device, and we integrate with SharePoint, with your local file servers, or other content stores you may have within your environment. We give you the ability to have secure encrypted content pushed to users based on those role-based permissions, because again we link into Active Directory. So it's not a one piece of content has to go to everybody. You can make sure that the right person has the right content on the right device. Within a user profile, you can determine that one particular piece of content should only be viewed on an iPad as against an iPhone, for instance, because it's more usable. So it's a very granular solution. We also allow users to upload media into the content store, but you can prevent them, should you wish, from copying things outside of the content store. Again, creating this mini container, if you like, but making sure that you have security attached to the content that people are using, your content, on their devices. To use content management, you have a device client on the phone or tablet, and the content can be stored and consumed within that container. Now, it doesn't have to be. You can have this as a fully push solution, but you can just show the file names and have it pulled on an as-need basis should you want to. I've already mentioned that we map to Active Directory to create user groups. Rather than reinvent the wheel, we can extend the groups you already have, pushing content by need or requirement. Snow Device Manager on identity management, we have a really robust certificate capability offering certificate management across all users, and if it's not on a user base you want certificates, we can do it on a device basis. This will help you ensure the right user is using the right device, and also that you're only providing corporate data access to trusted devices, those devices that you know about that you've decided should be on your network and can have the data residing on them. We support single sign-on, and we also support two-factor authentication. I mentioned before a couple of features that came out earlier this year or late last year with Apple. One is the device enrollment program, which we support. For those that are unaware of it, it's a capability to really take what are consumer devices and turn them into enterprise-ready devices. And it removes a lot of burden from IT because you can effectively mail your devices to your users, and the first thing that happens when they turn it on is they are asked for their Active Directory credentials, and then the device auto-enrolls with the MDM solution of your choice, ensuring that from first switch on it is enterprise ready and you don't have people accessing it using their iTunes, using their Apple ID, bringing down their own apps, etc., etc. It makes for a really streamlined experience, and it also gives the opportunity to supervise your devices without having to tether them to a Mac device, so it gives you wireless supervision. On the volume purchase program capability, it's really flexible. It allows you to have managed distribution of apps. In some verticals you get discounted apps from Apple when you buy in bulk as well, but it also gives privacy for your users, because your users don't have to use their own Apple ID to get your corporate apps onto the phone, because they're actually using your group your group VPP ID. So this is very attractive for some areas, and if you are using either of these programs, Snow Device Manager supports both. Some of the business benefits of Snow Device Manager as a whole: we provide effective management of mobile devices as described. One of the key differentiators between Snow and some of the other vendors in this market, what you get from Snow is everything. It's out of the box, it's very feature rich. We don't layer costs on top of a base price for the product. You pay one price and you get everything. If you choose not to use some parts, that's your choice, but we charge a very low price for everything that you can get within the EMM suite. We give you true visibility of mobile devices and apps and who's using them, and we give you the opportunity to link that into your Snow License Manager product, so giving you mobile SAM. We give you central management of applications, email, Wi-Fi profiles, etc. We save you money by reducing help desk calls with SelfService Portal. Gartner estimate that each help desk call into IT costs around £40 per call. And if I could ask you to remember that number just for a few minutes before I come to a case study, I'll illuminate just how much money we save one of our customers with that feature alone. And it also eliminates ownership issues with bring your own device and corporately owned devices. With our solution, these two types of devices can coexist. We allow you to set different profiles for different users based on the ownership of the device. Now this is particularly important with BYOD in that if you have users coming to work with a device in their pocket that they own that costs them in excess of £500, it's unrealistic to expect that they're going to allow IT to tell them how to use the device. What is realistic is that they're going to allow IT to tell them how they can consume data and applications relevant to their job function on their device. And this really does help with the message that mobile device management is quite an old technology, and it was all about controlling devices and making sure they couldn't do things that might be risky. EMM, Enterprise Mobility Management, is more of a business enablement technology, and it's about enabling your users to perform to the best of their ability using your apps, your data on devices, whether you own them or not, so that you get more productivity and more efficiency out of your workforce. I mentioned a case study. I have one here from Swedish Railways. They came to us and they decided what they wanted to do was streamline how their devices are sourced and serviced. So we worked with their partner to make sure that that was done, and DEP was part of that. The use case was that they have tablets in the trains, and each of the train drivers have a mobile phone. They were really keen to cut the amount of support calls they got. They were getting a lot of calls, particularly around my email's not working, Wi-Fi profile's not right, real basic setup things. They wanted to tighten security. They didn't want private apps on the devices, but they wanted to make sure that the train drivers always had the very latest line of business app that they'd had developed for their business. What happened was they ended up with 15,000 fewer support calls in a year. Now, if you remember, I said probably about 4 or 5 minutes ago that Gartner estimate that each support call, each call into help desk costs about £40. Then you can see that we saved this company £600,000 in a year. This whole total rollout paid for itself within a month. We also made sure that the end users were able to take control over provisioning their own devices with email, Wi-Fi, security settings, and be able to get their own apps onto their own devices. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that when we do the self-service portal demo. So that was the dry piece, the looking through slides and listening to me talk to you piece. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you and show you what Snow Device Manager actually looks like. So hopefully you can see that I'm now into the administrative portal of Snow Device Manager. And what we have here is on the left-hand side we have how we've grouped our devices on this demo portal, and you'll see that we have grouped it by country, but you can do it by department. You can do it exactly how you want, really. But this down at the bottom left-hand screen is how we've got our AD set up. So we've replicated Active Directory so that we can do cute things like create user groups that match what our Active Directory tells us. So let's go and have a quick look at the headline information that we get from devices. You can see here, these are the devices on this domain, and I have 53 devices that we currently have within the Snow domain. One thing to note, this report here that's coming up as effectively my homepage is totally customizable. So I'm going to pull up the column chooser and show you how customizable it is, and it'll test my ability to talk while I'm scrolling through the plethora of options for the columns that we can show you. But the point being that there are literally so many columns that you can choose. No two customers of ours have exactly the same setup on their Snow Device Manager platform. They all look for slightly different things. They're all interested in different attributes that are coming from the devices. But this is what we have on our domain. We have the device name, the phone number. We have other things like the full username, because the device name won't always match the user. The username comes from AD. How many devices the user has on the domain. You may, within your environment, decide that you only want each user to have one device. It would be unusual. Typically, the average user in an enterprise situation is using 2 to 3 devices daily for their job. And then we see things like when it was last seen, when it was registered, what the device is, and the OS. So this is just what we've chosen to show every time we log in. On the left here, we can see a breakdown of the devices by profile. And we can see that we have Android devices, iOS, a couple of Windows Phone, and then some unknown ones here. The unknown ones are ones that haven't, because we're doing a demo, they haven't quite gone through the full registration process, so they haven't done the heartbeat and reported back their state. We also have some handheld terminals in here that we're currently testing on this domain. So if I'm going to pull out one of my devices, and we'll look a little more detail of the kinds of things that we see. This is where I need to find mine. There we are. So here's my iPhone 6, and we can see, just highlighting it, that it's in a good state. It's been reporting regularly. It's an Apple device. It has the Snow Device Management client on, and we can see my phone number. But if we double-click on this device, we'll start to get a lot more information. And this is the overview of what we get back when we do the regular heartbeat from the device. We can see when it was last seen. We can see the name. We see the SMS number. That'll become important when I show you how to enroll a device. We also see that it's registered. We can see who it's tied to. So this device is tied to my AD record. And we can see that it's owned by the organization. This is important because when we set a profile to send out to the device, we send different types of profiles based on whether it's owned by the corporate or whether it's owned by the individual. And that's around things like the security state that we put on, and also the restrictions that we put on the devices. A bit more device-specific information, and we can see it's an Apple iPhone 6. Here's the Apple serial number. The IMEI, every piece of mobile equipment has one of these. Another way of saying the same thing here. In the Middle East, they call it something different. And here's the SIM card number. You may have a requirement that you have particular SIM cards that you want in particular phones. You may have lots of people that roam, and you may have different agreements with your airtime providers. You can track the SIM number here. The screen size is quite an interesting field. Not a lot of vendors report on this, but this really solidifies the message that we have around applications really being one of the main drivers for EMM. A lot of, if you have bespoke apps in your organization, your app developer will give you a recommended screen size, or at least a minimum screen size for the app to work to its best capability. So you can generate reports here on what the screen size is and what resolution it is. If I click on the security tab, this is a representation of the security policies that we have pushed out to my phone. And you can see that there aren't many, to be honest. We haven't restricted it very much at all. But from here, I can physically lock the device. So if somebody calls in and says, oh, I've lost my phone, you can very quickly, within a few seconds, lock the phone, and we say, this phone is reported lost. Please call the number above. And what will happen is this phone will now lock, and the user will be presented, or the person that has the phone in their hand will be presented with a black screen with that phone number and the message, and they can do nothing else to that phone apart from call the number on screen. Now, the use case being the person finds their phone, it's locked, they call the number, that could be a help desk number, and then here you can remove the password lock that's been put on. So an easy way of locking and unlocking the phone in a help desk situation. If I go to the next screen, this is a representation of the restrictions that have been placed by policy on this phone. Now, we're not in a vertical that it requires me not to be able to use my camera, but we have many customers that have. And if that has been enabled correctly by policy, this would be crossed out. But there's lots of other things here. If you're using VPP, for instance, then you might want to disable purchases inside applications so that your users that have taken a corporate app are not able to buy extra things within that app, because effectively the organization will be charged for that, not the end user. You may also want to disable the installation of apps. We give you the opportunity through our device management capability to disable the app stores, to disable the browser, to disable voice recognition, lots of things that you can do to restrict the use of the phone to the actual usage that you want it to be. And we have, most people have this, explicit content. You can determine that people can or can't consume explicit content on your devices. I can go and have a look at the list of applications that are present on this phone. This is a key differentiator between Snow Device Manager and some other solutions in the market. Not all solutions report on all apps. A lot of solutions choose to report only on the apps that they've pushed out to the device using their server. Snow's different to that in that we show you all of the apps that reside on the device. The way we differentiate is by this managed capability here. So where you see a device, an application with a tick next to it, that's a managed application. Now, if you remember in the presentation, I spoke a little bit about managed applications being mini containers on the device. Now, these are those very same apps. So any data that travels to and from this app is secured both and encrypted, both in transit and at rest, also in use. So they have to be logged onto the phone. They have to have gone through authentication for them even to be able to see this data. So it gives you a nice comfort blanket, if you like, that you can have private apps such as Google Maps, Hotel Tonight, I shouldn't admit it, but Vivino, my wine tasting app, alongside your corporate apps like Snow and Concur, etc. So they can coexist, whether it be your own device or whether it be a corporately owned one. We have location information. I have a feeling I've turned off my location services, but yes, I have. So it's reporting that it was last seen yesterday in our offices in Bracknell. A lot of organizations actually have started turning off location services due to data privacy concerns, and in some countries they just don't allow it anyway. But verticals where this is very interesting is fleet applications, being able to see that the device that is actually managing the drop-offs of information or packages is actually on the route that you've pre-assigned is very useful. And it's a belt and braces approach to knowing where the device is and, by extension, where your employees are. So that was a very high-level view of what we do with devices. If we have a look at applications, we can see, I think I mentioned we have somewhere in the region of 50 devices on this domain. Here we have 483 apps installed, weighted slightly towards iOS, but actually the number per device are more on Android because they ship with more applications on. If we go and have a look and take a quick look at a particular app, let's have a look at LinkedIn. Okay, we have this one. We can see that we've got 13 installations of LinkedIn across our domain, 11 on Apple and 2 on Android. I'm going to click on the Apple one. And what we're shown at the bottom is we're shown all the devices where LinkedIn is present. And we're also shown the versions, which could be very important to you. Again, if I go back to the use case, if you may have a bespoke app within your organization, if your app developer sends you a service note saying we have a problem with the old app, you must really install the latest app as soon as possible. Here's where you can find out who's still running the old app. Now, by policy, you can force people to upgrade by starting to turn off email, corporate access, etc., etc. Maybe put a very long password on their device because they haven't followed your policy. But it is a good way of getting a report out very quickly of what the asset state is of your applications across your mobile fleet. I'm going to have a look at document shares. This is the content management piece. And if I go into Snow UK, what we've done in the UK is we've decided that all the employees on their corporately owned devices should have a very base level of information from HR, and it's things like expenses form, holiday form, but key for us in our organisation is that they all have the employee handbook. All those HR violations that go on, they can't actually say that they didn't know they were in breach of policy because they've got the device readily to hand on their phone or on their tablet. But if we back up and look at here, I've mentioned a couple of times that we're integrated with AD. So you can have as many folders down here as you like linked to role and responsibility with as much information as you like. We integrate with SharePoint and your local file service. So you could build this out quite nicely to be a content store within the Snow Device Management server, pushing content out to users, making sure that they have the information that you want them to have always at their fingertips, rather than having to have the search and surf experience that they do with many other content solutions once they're mobilized. So it's a really nice application within Snow Device Manager that you get within the price to be able to mobilize your content out to your mobile users. So that was a very high level overview of Snow Device Manager from an admin point of view. What I'd like to do now is to quickly show you the self-service portal. Now, if we change our mindset for a moment, what I've just been talking to you about and showing you was how you administer the server. Now, that's great. It looks a bit more technical. When we look at this, look at this from the view of I'm an end user of the technology. I'm a user of a mobile phone that's been provided to me by my organization, and this is how I can actually interface with the solution to be more productive. So to log on to this, all I need is my regular login details, my AD credentials. And what will happen is I will be presented with a home screen, and this is a web-based portal, and you can see all of the devices that I've got attached to Snow Device Manager at this point. Now ignore the 3 at the bottom there, you'll see why in a moment, because I'm going to show you how to add your own new device. But I have two devices here, my iPhone and my Android phone, and I'm going to go through the basic steps to add a new device as an end user. So the use case could be I'm a BYOD user and I've decided that I'm going to add my device. I'm allowed to by the organization. I'm going to add my device to Snow Device Manager. So you can see it's a 4-step wizard, and my aim is always to have a new device added within a minute. So let's see if we can pull that off. We press next. We decide what we're going to call it. Let's call it new iOS device, and I'm going to send a text message with the registration details on it. So it's a UK number, 7869-02256. Okay. So what's happened now is that's sent a text message out to the device. The end user then gets the text, and there's a link within it that they press. They press the link and it will enroll the device for them within Snow Device Manager. So if I press next, because that's happened, and you can see already, and I think I just made it in under 60 seconds, we have this new iOS device enrolled within Snow Device Manager. Now this is the most simple self-enrollment process I've ever seen. We've tested it with many customers, with end users, both technical people, but also people who are less technical, and we've never had anybody say, I can't manage to do that. So it's about making it very intuitive, very simple, so that you really can extend those capabilities to your user base, releasing some of the burden from IT. So if I now go to a device that's already enrolled, here's one I prepared earlier, you can see this is my iPhone, and there's some base information shown to the end user. And now this isn't the most relevant part to them, but should they be interested, they can see the application list that's on their devices, and this obviously exactly mirrors what I showed you on the administrative portal. But what we can do is if we go to programs, this is where the self-service portal really comes into its own, because what it does is it allows the end user to enroll their device and then self-serve their own apps. Now the apps that I would see here within this portal may be different to one that my colleague sees, because my boss has decided that he really wants me to use Concur, and my colleague may not have access to Concur. So this is role and responsibility based. It's an app store that's pushed to me It's not generic, and it's the apps that I'm allowed to put onto my device. So if I add one here, it's as simple as that. So I click on the app, it goes into the application queue, and it's pushed to my device. So that's from the app standpoint. That's very nice. We can also push web links. So this could be training videos, it could be product information, it could be the CEO blog, it can be anything you want. But we were able to push web links for you. But the really interesting part here is the ability to push for the end user to push their own email profile, pre-populated with the server credentials and with their AD credentials, so that they can fix their own problems with email. Over 80% of all help desk calls relevant to mobile devices are around the area of my email's not working or my Wi-Fi is not working. No users ever admit that they've played with the profile on their device. They never admit it. They're never going to tell IT, oh, I changed my password, or I did this, I changed the server routing, but people play. This is a way of them not being embarrassed to call IT, but also reducing that £40 per call to help desk, having to fix basic things like getting email onto phones. So here you could have email, you could have Wi-Fi profiles for different offices, so that when your people move around the country to different offices, they automatically connect to your Wi-Fi. So it's a very useful part of the solution for end users. One last thing I'll show you on self-service is around the lost phone piece. Now, whilst this says lost phone, this is how we help you mobilize workflow. This is a lost phone workflow. There are a number of phones in the UK that go missing between the hours of 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. And these phones get lost, and quite often nothing happens with them because people don't report it till 10 o'clock Monday, and by then who knows where the phone is or what's happened to it. It's probably been rooted or jailbroken or something's happened to it. And quite often it's not the phone, I reiterate, it's not the phone that's the issue, it's the data that resides on it that you should be worried about. So if you've lost your phone, as an end user, you can log onto your self-service portal and you can go to the lost phone tab. You will always be presented with the IMEI number, and that's of your device. You will always need that should you be making a report to the police or for insurance purposes. But the interesting thing here is giving the end users the ability to wipe their device. This will wipe the device, either a full wipe if it's owned by the organization, or a selective wipe if it's a BYOD device, will wipe any of the data or apps that have been provisioned by the Snow Device Manager portal on behalf of the organization. So two different ways, again, of managing BYOD and corporately owned devices within the same solution. And then these last two parts can be anything you want. We've chosen that all our stuff's owned by Sweden, so we have a report to the Swedish police, and then we send in a report to our airtime provider. So the aim there was to empowering your users to be able to take a bit more control over their device, and also involving them in the enterprise mobility management area, rather than it being just about control, actually enabling them to be well-rounded mobility users. So that was that really was the end of what I wanted to discuss with you, and I'm sure that if there's been any questions that they'll be told to me now, and we'll cover anything that I may not have made really simple for you.
Lovely, thank you very much. So we have had one question come through so far. So obviously if you have got any other questions, please do feel free to pop those in the box now. And I'll kick off with the first one. Adam asks, we have Snow already running within our business. Is the MDM module part of our existing setup as an update or an additional licensed module?
Thank you for your question, Adam. Snow Device Manager is an additional license requirement. Whilst it is an integrated product within the SAM platform, it is a standalone EMM product. So yes, you would need additional licensing. But if you speak to your account manager at Bytes, then they'll be able to help you with putting together a pricing structure for you and show you exactly what you need to be able to bring EMM into your Snow area.
Perfect, thank you. We've had another one here come through from Duncan. who asks, we have Snow as a hosted solution. Does the MDM solution still link in the same way?
Sorry, could you repeat that for me? I missed part of it.
We have Snow as a hosted solution. Does the MDM solution still link in the same way?
Yes, thanks for that, Duncan. Yeah, absolutely it does. Snow Device Manager can be provided to you either on-premise or in a hosted environment. So however you're taking Snow License Manager at the moment, it kind of makes sense. You may want to do the same thing with Snow Device Manager. But it's not a prerequisite to be able to get the mobile SAM capability. They don't have to be both hosted. They don't have to both be on-premise. We can mix and match that. But again, your Bytes account manager will be able to explain to you exactly how that can happen and provide you with pricing accordingly.
Lovely. Well, that's all the questions that we've had through today. So firstly, we've had one more. So Debbie asks, presumably if you are looking at the installed apps on a BYOD device, would you see the customer's private apps as well as the corporate apps?
Thanks, Debbie. Yes, we do report on private apps that are on the device. However, we don't show any usage data if it's BYOD, and we don't show any actual data. All we show is the device, the application name that's there. Now, this is a feature that can be turned off. So by profile, you can restrict what information comes back. So if it's a BYOD device, you may choose to only report on those apps that you've rolled out. You may not want to see those that are privately installed. So it's very granular, and you can attack it in any way that you wish.
Lovely. So I think that is the final questions that we've had come through. So thank you very much to Alan and Dan for presenting for us, and thank you very much for everybody for joining us today.